Do you need to hear the question again?
No, it's how the Holy Spirit is present. No, yes, how the Holy Spirit is present in the... Hi, I'm Father Dempsey, and this is Ascension Presents. Somebody asked me, where is the Holy Spirit in the Bible? And I said, it's everywhere, right from the beginning. Father, from the beginning, yes, right from the book of Genesis, already the Holy Spirit is acting, is always an active character, a person who decides, who intervenes, and in one way or another, with God, the Father, and the Logos, the Son, is always acting together. And you may say, Father, how do you know that? Well, I need to use the tradition of the church. And one particular character in this tradition of the church is Basil the Great, or Basil of Caesarea, also known as one of the three Cappadocian fathers. Fantastic. So Basil the Great wrote this beautiful book on the Holy Spirit. And right from the beginning, he will actually highlight, emphasize all the presence of the Holy Spirit, starting right from the book of Genesis throughout the entire Old Testament. But remember this, Basil the Great knew the biblical languages, so for him, it was easier to identify these presences of the Holy Spirit through expressions or through words, like, for example, ruach. Ruach is the famous word that we know very well, that we usually translate it as spirit. But ruach in Hebrew has many other meanings. For example, can be translated as a wind, or some kind of a force, or sometimes can be translated as anger, or vitality, or energy, or even temper, temper or impatience. So that word in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew text that we call also Masoretic text, appear 389 times. Ruach. But more than 50% of those occurrences is to indicate this divine entity that in Christianity we call the Holy Spirit. And that is actually what Basil the Great did. He began to identify this expression. For example, already the Spirit of the Lord, the Ruach Elohim, is hovering over the waters right there in Genesis 1, verse 2. But also it's quite interesting to see how the Holy Spirit is also acting in the liberation of the people of Israel from Egypt when they are crossing the sea. For example, if you go to Exodus chapter 15, verse 8 and 10, if you go there to your own Bibles in English, they will say, and the blast of his nostrils, were blowing the waters, or the translation will say, and this breath from his nostrils actually will blow in the waters. So you will find many different translations, or breath, or blast, or wind, etc., etc. But the word that is used in the Hebrew text is ruach. And Basil the Great said, that is the Holy Spirit acting, actually, the one that divided the waters for the people of Israel to go through is the Holy Spirit. Basil the Great always will see that all three, very important this detail, okay? Because sometimes we think, okay, in the Old Testament, only is mentioned Yahweh, so that means God the Father alone. No, when one is acting, all three are acting. Very important, this axiom, this notion in theology, especially Catholic theology, okay? So, for example, when Basil the Great said, okay, when the Lord will say, let us make man according to our image and similitude, okay? He said, he's speaking in plural because all three are acting. That means the Holy Spirit was acting also in the creation of a human being. Very important, this detail. So when we go to the New Testament, the presence of the Holy Spirit is also overwhelming. Overwhelming. The word that is used in the New Testament is pneuma in Greek, okay? Pneuma. And the presence of the Holy Spirit appear in a very special way, concentrated, is in the Act of the Apostles. Approximately 41 times is mentioned explicitly the action of the Holy Spirit. But not just only that. Remember that when we use the word pneuma, can means also wind, can means also this kind of this spirit of a person. So in total, the word pneuma in the New Testament appear approximately around 379 times, approximately. From this number, half of them, they are theological. That means they are referring to the Holy Spirit. And most of the time, these presences are concentrated in the Acts of the Apostles and among the Gospels. The one that mentioned the most, the Holy Spirit, is the Gospel of Luke. So it's interesting to see the Gospel of Luke and the Acts of the Apostles are these two books, the ones that mention the most, the Holy Spirit acting actively. And the Holy Spirit, my dear friends, is the one that makes it possible, according with the spirituality that we find in the letters of Paul, this adoption, this filial adoption. Paul would call it hiothesia, this kind of a process in which we become children of God because we have faith in Jesus. And then through that faith, the Holy Spirit then will make us to be part of this unique family in which we are heirs, co-heirs, okay? Very important that word, co-heirs for the eternity so we can live together forever with the object of our love. So the Lord is always acting, but the Holy Spirit is always there, guiding us, making us to be children, making us to be co-heirs, and making us new. Because in one way or another, our lives is the workshop of the Trinitarian God. I hope that this is helpful, though. But as I told you before, to talk about the Holy Spirit in the Bible, my goodness, take us the whole life just to talk about it. But I hope that this is helpful. My best regards. Take care.